please call the roll.
Winters.
Here.
Lark.
Here.
Dowling.
Here.
Swallow.
Here.
Bear. Here. Brooks.
Here.
Parsons.
Here.
Bowman.
Here.
Okay. Item 4 is discussion and action on the consent agenda. All of the following items which concern reports and items of a routine nature normally approved at city council meetings will be approved by one vote of the council. Any member of the council desiring to discuss an item on the consent agenda may request that it be removed from the consent agenda and placed for discussion as the next item on the regular agenda. It will then be considered separately. The consent agenda consists of the consideration and action on the following items. Item A, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on April 17th, 2023. Item B, approval of the minutes of the special meeting on April 15th, 2023. Item C, approval of the minutes of the special meeting on May 4th, 2023. Item D, approval of the minutes of the emergency meeting on May 11th, 2023. And item E, approval of claims in the amount of $280,546.70 and payroll expenses of $186,418.22. And item F, approval of OG&E electric invoice of $26,581.19.
A motion to approve the consent agenda.
A second.
Have a motion from Mr. Winters and a second from Mrs. Beer to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Winters.
Yes.
Bear.
Yes.
Lark.
Yes.
Bowman.
Yes.
Parsons.
Yes.
Swallow.
Yes.
Brooks.
Yes.
Dowling.
Yes.
Okay. Item 6, reports from staff. No planning commission meeting. Hospital authority meeting. Mr. Bowman.
Other than the routine stuff, there are a couple of doctors, Dr. Daniels that has started. He is a general surgeon, Dr. Tupper, who will be starting in May or June, who's an orthopedic surgeon, and we approved the purchase of a C-arm to assist in surgeries, which will probably be the start of some specialty equipment for these surgeons. Other than that, it's pretty routine.
Does council have any questions for Mr. Bowman? Thank you, sir. Next item is the library board meeting. Mr. Dowling.
It was a good library board meeting. We talked a lot about the summer reading program that's starting to gear up since school is about to be let out. We talked about the 100 books before kindergarten program, which is an attempt for the library to push to help small kids read everything from small picture books to children 1 and older. There is a huge amount of statistics that show how much it helps development to start reading at a young age, especially parents reading to children. I also have some more information that I'm going to share after the council meeting. We've got some calendar of events that are going to happen in July for the library as part of that program and stuff, and I'd encourage, if you guys have a little one, to sign up for it because we have a lot of good activities that we do through the library. Other than that, I think we also have, we're doing selling books as the library does periodically, and so it's been going really well. We talked about some timeline for long-term maintenance projects, just because it's budget season. And then we had a report from the National Library Week and the staff that attended that. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Taylor. Next item is the Arena Authority meeting. They did meet. I'm not able to provide an update, though, but if anybody has any questions, we can get them to them. Tourism Tax Commission meeting. Mrs. Beer.
We have not met since the last time we have met. But our next meeting is Wednesday at 5:30.
Okay. There hasn't been a Board of Adjustments meeting. Airport Commission meeting. The airport meeting was mostly routine business. That was it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I don't think we didn't have any action items.
There's number of questions from Paul that I pretty much answered.
So,
reach out to me on the runway lights, wondering if there's an estimated time frame when we expect those to be fixed.
So we expect them to be, we're using 2 different FAA grants on the runway light system. And the first one is already in place, the other one is a new grant. Our engineers, in working with other cities, they have run into some issues with those cities going out for bid, getting bids, and then the FAA not doing anything until after their bids expired, and then causing them to rebid again. So Toby indicated that he thinks we are going to be past that part of the FAA authorization process within the next week or so. And so once we get that authorization, Toby has proposed to us a schedule of letting the bids, or advertising, and then getting the bids back and awarding those bids. And hopefully construction would start in late summer, depending on how long it takes them to get the lights, because the materials still have to be ordered once that's done. But yeah, that's not going as fast as any of us would like. Any other questions? All right, thank you. Next item is the Recreation Complex Board meeting. Mrs. Swallow.
We met on May the 10th, and we met several times in special meetings trying to get the turf project going, and we've had a lot of different discussions on what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. And Kim Leehorn had made an offer, and we decided not to approve that. And so we are going to have a special meeting again on Wednesday at noon to discuss it some more. That's really all we've done.
Any questions for Gail?
We'll say in the restaurant this weekend, I saw quite a few jerseys in, and I had a conversation with someone coming from a distance. I said, what type of fields do you guys like to play on better? Just because I don't really know, I'm not in that. I said, turf or regular field, and they said, oh man, if you guys had turf fields, that would be amazing. So, just getting the kind of the outside opinion, so I'm excited to see what happens with that. So.
I think that's very much dependent on opinion, because I've heard the opposite. I've heard
Yeah.
people who are very upset that we are contemplating changing over to turf.
That was just one conversation, so.
I think it's 6 to 1, half a dozen to another.
For the economic impact on our community, turf is going to make a huge difference. We will not cancel tournaments unless we'll be shut down for lightning, but our fields won't be underwater. They'll drain, they'll be playable, and so the economic impact, we should be able to have more tournaments and more teams, and so I think that alone is a pretty good argument. And yeah, some people don't like playing on it, but they can play in the outfield.
I will say Weatherford has all turf fields, and they have a lot of tournaments, pretty much every weekend. And it brings tons of people all over the state and out of state, so.
I forget, what's the total cost of the turf field installation?
It's not been bid yet.
Yeah,
Not done
so
yet.
we don't know. Yeah, that's what we're trying to decide, is how we're going to start it. Because we didn't, whether or not we want a company to come over, an engineering company to help us do the whole process, or just to do bidding process, or what. We didn't go with Kim Leehorn at this point, but
Well, I guess, did they bid it out at all, or give a ballpark speculation figure?
Ballpark.
it was $77,000 just for the engineering for the whole.
70,000 for the engineering.
70,000 for it.
The
And
budget
Was that just a flat charge or percentage of the overall cost?
is a flat charge. The budget is estimated, again, there are no bids at this point. The budget is estimated at 1.4 for 8 infields. Any other questions for the rec park? Or Parks and Recreation, I guess. Okay. Next item is the cemetery report. I wasn't at the last one, was I? Do you want to give us a report?
I wasn't at the last one either.
Okay.
They had it without.
Was it a special meeting on the,
It's supposed to be the special meeting to continue discussing green burial.
We did not have a meeting.
Oh, you didn't end up having it?
We didn't have enough people.
Oh, okay.
there we go.
So right now, we're just trying to come up with policy for what we're going to do and the expectations, as far as native grass if you decide to do green burial, you may not be able to be buried with your spouse because it's basically when you die, you're just the next person put into the plot in line. Trying to decide, working with the funeral homes because they'll be required to get some extra certifications to be green burial, so. It's, I think, taken a little bit more process than we thought it was gonna take, so, but if anybody has any comments or anything, they need to reach out to one of the board members and ask questions, so.
Thank you. Next item is Finance Committee meeting. Mr. Winters.
Still looking to be on a pretty positive trajectory. Cash balance on here is about a little over 3.8 million. We did, since this has been done, we did get our 522 money at $316,249.97, which was more than what was anticipated, so that's good news. Our sales and use tax collected $353,918.61, up 5.47% from April, but it's down 8.9% from April of 22, but down 8.9% from March of 23. Billed out $383,995 in utilities, which is an increase of almost $42,000 from April of 23. Or that'd be wrong, it'd be March of 23, I believe, right? But other than that, we had some discussion over the budget as we get prepared to hopefully get something that we can approve, and that was pretty much the meeting.
Does council have any questions for Mr. Winters? Thank you, sir.
You were saying that we collected 43,000 more than we did last month?
Last month.
Okay. The next item is the mayor's report. I don't have a lot to report. We did have, there's been a lot going on in Alva here lately, and if you've ever heard people say there's nothing to do in Alva, they haven't been here for the last month. So there's been a lot going on. I'm really looking forward to what our sales tax numbers look like after having had the events that were going on in April and then already so far in May. So hotels have been full on multiple weekends, and so a lot going on. Been working with Steve still on a regular basis, probably meeting with him 2 or 3 times a week at least, and he's coming along. His project management, people management, those are his fortes, and it shows. And we're continuing to work on his understanding of just municipal government and municipal finance, and he's coming along in that area as well. So. Anybody have any questions for me? All right, next item is the business manager's report.
The mayor kind of covered a lot of what I've been doing, just trying to get into the job, get my feet wet, kind of really figure out what's going on. I did, however, last week learn a lot more about water main breaks than I ever really wanted to know. Hopefully that doesn't keep going on while we continue testing water or fire hydrants, but that's very important to get those tested as well. You don't want to show up to a fire without any water. So, one may lead to the other, so let's hope we don't have any more breaks as we get the rest of the fire hydrants tested. that's been the focus for last week or so, just to get that thing fixed. But anyway, like I said, that was a big learning curve for me last week. Other than that, I just continue to try to figure out how to understand this budget process, and been working from there real close on that, and working up the reports and stuff that we need. So.
I was going to ask, on the website, there's a tab for city manager reports, and there it has a bunch of reports that were from, most of them from 2019.
Yeah.
They're a really good format, I feel. I don't know if those are something that maybe in the future we could look at, possibly. I don't know when the last time they were done, but just looking at the ones from 2019, a lot of good information there, and I think for council members and for citizens, it would be definitely beneficial. I know you're just trying to get everything figured out now. I'm not saying, by next month or even month, but eventually I would appreciate if we might look at something like that, just so we could have, and also to share with the citizens, kind of just update what's going on and what's being done in Alva.
I agree, and when I was looking into this job, I read a number of those things, just kind of get an idea. But no, you're right. Yeah, we're trying to get some of our arms around this elephant, and then I do like this because it is very informational. So we will get back to this eventually.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Ford? Okay. Item number 7, remarks and inquiries by citizens. We will allow public comments. We will limit that to 2 minutes. If anybody would like to make a public comment on this item, number 7, on the agenda, we would ask that you please come to the podium and state your name, and we will give you 2 minutes. Now, I will tell you, we will cut you off at 2 minutes, so be succinct. If you're coming to talk about the budget and the budget hearing itself, you may talk during the budget hearing. But if it's anything else on the agenda or any other item that you'd like to discuss, it'll be 2 minutes at this time.
Yeah, my name is Larry Farrell. I was just wondering what your plans are for fixing all the potholes all over town. There's been a large discussion. I run this Facebook group called Rants and Raves, and a lot of people are really upset about the potholes. I just wonder what you're going to do about that. And my second question is, 6% raise on our water utility. It seems a little extreme, especially for people that are on a fixed income, like myself. I don't think we can handle that right now. That's my opinion. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Okay. Thank you. The next item is the NWSU Foundation presentation on the Alva Incentive Scholarship Program for spring 2023 semester. Mr. Skeeter Berg.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I'd like to start out by introducing those folks that are from the university with me. You know Dr. Bo Hannaford, and you know Dr. David Paikey, our Executive Vice President, and then Caleb Mossberg, who is our Dean of Student Affairs and Enrollment Management. You may not know the red-haired tall gal in the back. She is our reigning Miss Northwestern, and that's Emily Smith. And she's probably my favorite student that's not related to me that's on our campus right now. She's a neat young lady that we're very happy to have in our community. I want to start off by thanking everyone, the council, the mayor, and the citizens of Alva for the support for this scholarship. It's huge, and it's a huge investment on so many young people that changes lives, and it's been going on for a long time. It's over time, it's just been a big deal. It continues to be a big deal, and I appreciate your continued support. Everyone should have in front of them a bill for $272,872. If you look at the back of the bill, there are names and places from all over the United States where these students come from and land in Alva. And I know a lot of them would not make that decision if it weren't for that scholarship. So thank you for your support. I'll be happy to address any questions.
Does council have any questions?
I was asked how many, I think you said.
I was asked this question too. How many people graduate who receive the scholarships? So if they get this freshman scholarship, a percentage or a number of how many graduate, and I didn't know if that was something that.
Do we even track that? No.
Currently, we could.
I will tell you that a lot of them wouldn't even be here if it weren't for the scholarship, so they don't even get in the door without the scholarship. A lot of these young people, a third of our population is like first generation college, and I use a baseball scenario. They're not on first or second base. They can't even see the outfield from where they start. And this scholarship and the many other scholarships the foundation has built up makes it possible for these students to get here, graduate, and become amazing citizens in our community and our world. But if we need to get that information, can we even track that?
We could, probably have to be by hand, but we can, yeah.
Yeah. Is it very important?
I would like to see it. I think it's, I mean,
Okay.
I just feel like it could be a good number to look at.
There's people in the public that are wanting to know.
And that's it, you know, and then I've had people ask me, you know, what's the return on investment? And I'll, you know, when I ran, I says, I support it. You know, I
You
support
want to know what the
Northwestern.
return? We can refigure that. I've
And-
done that before about
and-
7 or 8 years ago.
And that's what, I support it, but I want to have good answers when people ask me questions, and that's my thing, is it's not, because there are people who are concerned who, what they come to me and say is, you know, I can't afford my water, I'm tired of driving on bumpy streets, but we're paying for scholarships, and I want to have good answers when people come to me and say that. So if there was a way to have a good figure of return on investment to be able to share with them, because I think total Northwestern, I mean, what would Alva be without Northwestern? I agree Northwestern is a great asset to our community, but I feel those are questions that I've been asked, and I'd like to be able to have knowledgeable answers to share with
We've done that
citizens of Alva.
before.
So.
It's been 7 or 8 years probably. We'll be happy to refigure that. Bring it to the next meeting. Is that acceptable?
That would be
Okay.
great. So.
Any other questions? With that, I'll hand off to Dr. Bo Hannaford, our university president.
Ms. Parsons, I will say we did at the last, in the fall we presented, we brought back the information we had for the last economic report that was given by the state. I did hear from our regents that they are hoping to do another report this year on the economic impact, so hopefully we'll have that maybe in the future as well.
And I met with Dr. Peck, and he gave me a one-page, and the report that he gave me, I didn't feel was adequate. I just didn't feel like it was, the numbers were still correct. I felt it was talking about the average student spends $3,600 a year in the community. I mean, I don't know, it was an older document, but I feel like that wasn't probably high, you know, with the cost of everything. I feel like it's probably significantly more. So whenever that information comes, I'm not expecting you guys to drop everything to do this, but if you do have it eventually, I would just like to see, to be able to share with you looking at this meeting.
Last one was done in 2015.
Okay, so.
Yeah, so we can update that.
And then also, just to clarify, just not only freshmen, but just first-year students to the Alva campus, so we do have transfers that get that as well. So, again, on behalf of Northwestern and our students, we want to thank City Council and our community for that support. Mayor Parker did talk about some of those big events. Probably economic development, one of those last weekends, 2 weekends ago, was our graduation. Estimated probably, we had a wonderful crowd, probably close to 4,000 people at graduation. I know that weekend, in fact, because I was trying to get hotel rooms, they were booked. Restaurants were full, which was great. It was a great weekend for our community. Some upcoming events, we'll have our football golf tournament coming up in the first weekend of June. I think we already have about 30 teams signed up for that. And also I wanted to remind you, not only are we, we'll have students on campus for summer school, but another thing that we've really tried to do to bring more people into our community, we really upped the amount of camps that we're going to have this summer. We're estimating, I think we talked this morning, 15 to 16 camps throughout the summer, starting actually next week. And that'll be for middle school students and high school students. And we're estimating we're going to have between probably 1,500 to 2,000 students throughout the course of the summer here. And that's everything from our Stuco camp, our Upward Bound camp, our MASH camp. We'll have academic camps, and then some of the sports camps that we do as well. So that's something else that I want to point out in terms of that economic development. But we do have a student here, and we are very excited to have Emily with us. She's going to be a senior next year. So she will be one of those that received the scholarship and is graduating from Holdenville, Oklahoma. And you talk about just an all-around great student in terms of student athlete. She's a member of the cross country and the track team. She is a member of the University Singers. She is our reigning Miss Northwestern. She'll be competing in Miss Oklahoma here in just about a month, 3 weeks. Yeah. So we're very excited to have her just speak briefly to you and help me welcome Emily Smith.
Thanks for having me today. So I was a recipient of the Alva incentive as a freshman, and I wanted to start out with, I'm from a small town of Holdenville, it's similar to the size of Alva, and I didn't necessarily want to come to Northwestern, and it's kind of hard to have certain incentives to come. And whenever I was on the phone with Dr. Longhurst and my coach, they were struggling with certain scholarships, but here at Northwestern it was stackable scholarships. And the reason why Northwestern came over the other colleges was because of the Alva incentive, and that's what got me here personally, because I was able to stack more scholarship on top of what I was already able to receive. And so throughout that, I've been able to do a lot of things on campus and give back to the community as well. And I have a lot of friends that have as well, and so it's been super great to see that. And so, as you said, I'm super involved, and so I'm able to participate in all the choirs on campus and compete statewide. We actually just got back on our singers tour that we had. We went and recruited certain schools, so we went to Mustang High School, we went to Jenks High School, many more. We went to Edmond Memorial, and we went and sang for certain choirs, and we were able to go recruit singers there. And half those people never even heard of Northwestern. And it was super great to be able to tell them about the community here and the involvement of the community, and it's not just a single university and then the community separate. We really love that there's a community involvement with the university and that it's affordable and that we stack scholarships. And I know I'm super grateful for that because I've been given so many opportunities by choosing Northwestern, and if I would have chosen anywhere else, I don't think I'd be able to do as many things as I can. And I'm super excited to represent Northwestern and the Alva community at Miss Oklahoma in 3 weeks, as it's super exciting to have seen the give from the community to Northwestern, as well as from Northwestern to the community, as I get to be in lots of musical theater stuff. So I was in Music Man last year. I don't know if any of y'all were able to attend, but I was able to be a part of a group where I was picked to be with 7 other ladies from the town, and they're like my new moms, and they took all of us college kids under their wing, and we get to be part of the community now. And I didn't know if I wanted to return to Northwestern this last year, but because of that community involvement, I really enjoyed it, and I'm glad I came back. And I've come to love Alva, and I call it home, and I'm just grateful for the scholarship opportunities I've been able to have. It's kept me here, and I'm grateful for that. And I just want to say that thank you for your support for the scholarships, as it's needed, and we're very thankful for it. And the students are very appreciative of it, and I'm appreciative of it because it's given me so many opportunities. So, thank you.
Thank you, Emily. And the university is a huge factor in the success of our community. Economic development, just quality of life, all of those things look quite a bit different in the city of Alva, if not for the relationship that Northwestern has with the community of Alva. And so thank you for joining us this evening, Dr. Hannaford-Skeeter and Dr. Mossberg, Dr. Pecky. But we will vote on that invoice in the Economic Development Authority meeting. And so, item number 9 is discussion and action on resolution number 2017-009, section 3, to pause the scheduled increase in utility rates for the fiscal year 2023-2024. Mr. Dowling and Mr. Brooks requested that this be on our agenda by ordinance. If we want to deviate from the annual CPI increase in our utility rates, then it has to be approved by resolution. And so, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I'll submit for your consideration resolution number 2017-009, section 3, to pause the schedule to increase in utility rates for the fiscal year of 2023 to 2024.
It's one of those things where I think when you talk about when we've increased the rate, I kind of see that the city budget has grown to accommodate the continual rate increase. It's one of those things where I think that if you offer me a bunch of money, I bet I can find something to spend it on. And I think that it allows us to not be as conservative as we think. It's when you talk about the statistics in Alva based off the census, you can see that when you talk about household incomes, we're way below the national average. The predicted household income increase from now till 2025 is less than 3%. Do you know what I mean? And so it's one of those things where looking at large scales of what happens in Edmond or Oklahoma City and what their rates are does not necessarily translate to here. It's one of those things when you leave more money in the people's pockets, they can invest that and they can spend that, and then they can have greater returns themselves and spend that locally. It's one of those things I don't necessarily think that the thinking that originally went into this bill to have a continual rate increase based off the CPI, which is the cost of living. So you're talking about increasing the cost of living on a figure that is already supposed to represent what the cost of increase is. And so I think that there are better ways to do that, and I would even say that we should suspend this, and if we really do need the money in the budget to make room for it, which I believe, going through the budget, that if I could work with council, and we did vote it down, I think we can find the room in different sections. We talked about we transfer $1.5 million of revenue from the utility authority to hold up the general fund. Just this fiscal year is a good example that I think about half of it is what we've had to spend up to year, and that's still remaining in the budget from my understanding of the past council meetings we had. So I think there is room to be able to work that. I think it's important to talk about who this is affecting and how we're affecting it with it, and that's kind of where I am at.
Mr. Dowling, can you tell me what is the anticipated increase in water line costs, as well as parts, supplies, maintenance on vehicles? What's the anticipated increase over the next year?
It's a wonderful question. It's hard to really get.
Would you say it's the CPI? On average, would you say that it's the CPI?
It's hard to look. You'd have to be more specific with the specific parts details.
So the CPI is based off of a conglomerate of the cost of goods and the increase of the cost of goods and supplies and services in the United States. Is that correct?
I think you're going somewhere, so you could go ahead and do it.
That's correct, right?
I'd have to look at your numbers. It's hard to say off the top.
The CPI is like a paying index too, though. You mean the public is having to pay that, and then we're going to pass on another increase to the public is what gets.
So is our expenses going to go up by the cost of the CPI? Would you say that is accurate?
Same as the public's is.
So would you also then say that we need to have additional revenue to cover the increased costs and expenses?
I think we ought to find other ways to cover it besides raising it, it's basically like it's a tax on the public that's been put in to just automatically go up every year based off of the CPI. And I mean, the public doesn't like it. I don't like it.
I don't like it. I don't want to
I
pay
think
an increase rate either.
I mean, it's a fairly new thing that we've instituted. I mean, how long has it been going? I guess how long?
It's been going since 2017. Well, the ordinance was passed in 2017. It's actually been going since 2021, I believe, is the CPI portion of it. Here's the thing. And this has gone back well before any of us that are sitting at the table. We're sitting at this table. And if the notion is that we can't increase rates, then our infrastructure gets to be in the disrepair that our infrastructure is presently in.
Well,
and we've got $80 million worth of it, probably going to be more than that, but we've got $80 million worth of water line replacements that need to happen on a schedule, not just when they break. And well field improvements and all of these things, and you don't get there. You don't even start eating that apple if you aren't bringing in enough revenue to be able to pay for the increased cost of us providing the service. It's not a tax. Everybody that pays that gets water. Everybody that pays that is getting water, and the cost that it takes us to treat it with the chlorine has gone up every year. The cost that it takes us to put a mile of line in the ground has gone up every year. The cost that it takes us to pay our staff has gone up every year, to pay for their insurance and benefits and everything else. It's not a tax. This is a fee for a service. And if we don't have fees for services, then we have to cut out other parts of our budget. And if we're going to do that, I want to know what the suggested, what do you suggest that we cut? Because otherwise, if we're not having suggestions that we all agree on that needs to come out of the budget, then we have this in place to make sure we're funding our essential operations.
Well,
I was gonna say, I think sometimes where people look at it as a tax and not a fee is,
It's not a tax.
It's
It's not a tax.
I think what people are seeing, and this is what I've had people tell me, and I've even had people use words such as creative accounting, and I've told them, said, no, this is not the case, I don't believe, but I think what they're seeing is, their thought process is, the money that's brought in for utilities should be used for utilities, and if it's being used for general operations, then they feel like, why do we need to raise it?
That's how cities
And I agree, and
run, they don't get state
and
funding.
my response.
Cities have to run off utility billing and sales tax.
And that's what my response is to them, that, yes, if you want all of the utility revenue to be used on utilities, we need it. So, would you like to see a sales tax increase? And most of them are like, oh, no, but I think that's, looking at that, that's been my standard response. Yes, we could use this money, we have plenty of repairs that needs to be spent on, but to do that, we're gonna have to see a significant sales tax increase, and I don't think there's very many people who want that. But that's my go-to. There are a lot of people who've contacted me that are struggling with this and are concerned about. And my question is, if we pause this, how difficult is it to restart?
It's
Well, it has
done
to be
year by
voted
year.
on every year.
Yeah, it should, if we bring it up, it's voted
Yeah.
on. And that is my other thing, is it should be, I don't like the automatic. I think we should be on record voting for this every year personally, so that everybody's on the record with where they stand on it. I understand some of your concerns. I don't necessarily agree with them, but I understand.
And the money for the utilities is, even though it's in the operating, it's still being used for the water. When we have a line break, that's operating, that's general operating. It's still being used for these repairs.
But not,
And everything is so expensive.
yeah, but not all of it is what they're saying.
Oh, no, because that's part of, we're a business.
Mhm.
That is part of our business revenue, is to use it for city.
That part of it
I
is,
wouldn't say we're a business.
that part of it
We're
is a
government, but
business-like
yes, but the
entity.
city
We
is,
still operate like a business. We still
Yes,
have income,
the
we still
city
have
operates
expenses,
like
we
a
still have
business.
personnel, we still operate like a business. We're just not in a business in it to make a profit. We're in
No.
business, we're in business
To
to
keep it
improve
running
quality
and-
of life.
looking good.
Providing water service is part of providing quality of life and necessities of life, and that costs money. Providing safety with police and fire and EMS, those are parts of increasing quality of life, and in a lot of respects are a necessity to a good quality of life. Those cost money. Not all of those things are income producing. Utility is an income producing entity. It's an enterprise. It's one of our enterprise funds. Its intention is to bring in money that can then cover its expenses as well as non-income producing entities of the city. Otherwise, we do have an astronomical sales tax rate.
But I think people look at it as, we increase this because it's easier and it doesn't have to go to the vote. All I'm saying is I looked at that budget thinking, surely there's something, and you can't. You're not going to look and find a big item to cut. That doesn't work. It's going to be a lot of things, and I myself, in my position, I'm okay with the rate increase, but the amount of people who have reached out to me and said, hey, I can't afford this, and they say, if we have to limit our services, I've got people flat out tell me that. I'm okay with that. I personally am not, but I've had a ton of people reach out to me that are concerned about this, and that's where I feel maybe some way we could kind of meet in the middle, because there's people here that don't want to see an increase, and there's people here that believe it's necessary, and to some extent it is necessary. And looking at our rate structure now, the people who are reaching out to me, I would say most of them are concerned about people on fixed income and the people who are only using the minimum. And so I don't know, I know our minimum service charges are more than what we're charging per 1,000 gallons. How hard is it to look at something and maybe we have to raise the per 1,000 gallons, but maybe we don't raise our minimum charge, so we're not the people who are hurt the most by the increase. It's kind of, and because they're still paying more than the per 1,000 gallons for that minimum charge, maybe we look at not raising that to try to have some relief for people on fixed incomes. I mean, I understand we can't operate without raises. I mean, whenever the cost of food goes up, menu prices go up. I mean, it's just, it's how it is. But, I mean, that's in my family's business, and this is a business. At the end of the day, you have to raise prices when materials go up. But I think we need to really look and look hard at how we can work to try to make it more affordable. And I think you're looking, I mean, we do have an item on here is the communication and the contract on federal. And I think that will help, but we don't know how much. And I think at this time next year, I hope that we can look at them and say, hey, this is in place and this is helping, but we don't necessarily know how much that's going to help. So that's kind of one of my ideas is, you know, if we could not raise the charge that is the automatic charge, no matter how many gallons they use, I think that would make a difference for a lot of people.
Well, if you go lay $1.4 million in stock, you know, artificial turf out at the rec park, you're going to have a lot of angry people when you go spending $1.4 million.
Different pots of money. They're different pots of money.
I mean, completely different pots of money coming from a totally different setup of a sales tax. Some of that is donated funds that we don't have any control over how that person donated and what they wanted that money used for.
Once they donate it,
It's legally bound to that item.
It is what it is.
I would remind how we use the 522 district money to offset the cost. Not all that money. The EMS budget did not see an increase of $30,000 to what it was before it existed.
You don't think? I beg to differ.
I mean, they're,
We had a conversation about it when we started the rates and we talked about it. It did not completely entirely go. It helped offset the cost of the city running it. That's why the election was that. That's why it happened.
it went to EMS payroll. That's
I don't really
going
know.
to EMS. That's still an operating cost of EMS, and we didn't decrease their budget. Everything has, I mean, it doesn't look like anything because everything has gone up.
I'm just
They
saying
can
that the
barely
total
get a
number
box
did
of
not
gloves
increase from what it
for-
was.
EMS is off topic here. We need to get back on
And back
topic
to-
of the utility rates.
Also, that tax for the recreation center, that can
Recreation is off topic for the utility rates. We need to stay on topic.
Can we go ahead and get a vote on it or get a second on it?
Is there a motion?
Did I make the motion?
My question is, you know, looking at the proposal of not raising, how difficult is something like that to do? I mean, can someone make a motion? Because I think no one's, in this deal, you're going to have some people believe, you know, that feel like the right thing happened. You're going to have some people believe that feel like the wrong thing happened. If we can meet in the middle and find something, you know, hey, I don't love it, but I'm okay with it. And that's what, I mean, I think it's all about is trying to find something that's not going to, it's not perfect, and because it's not a perfect world, but if we can find where those people who are struggling, we're able to help them a little, because it's not how, I feel like looking at it, I believe it's Enid, their minimum charge starts out at 1,000 gallons, where ours is, I believe, 3,000 gallons, and there's a lot of people who aren't using that, and if it's just one person in a household, and they're on a fixed income, and with
That's not how
Our minimum starts at 0. You pay a minimum and then you pay for every gallon.
well, that's what I mean. If you look at how much the minimum is, and figure that out per 1,000 gallons, that's what I'm trying to say. I mean, I feel like it's the amount, the minimum, the overall charge for it is where some cities don't have that high of overall charge, I guess.
Well, you used to get a certain number of gallons here before you got an additional charge, and that was done away with.
Okay, so maybe I could be confused there, but I just feel like the minimum charge is is going to affect the people the most who are maybe not. I don't know. It's just my thoughts.
Well, I'd like to go ahead and make the motion.
I'll second it.
What's your motion?
Motion that we pass resolution number 2017-09, section 3, to pause the schedule increase in utility rates for the fiscal year 2023 through 2024.
That resolution's already passed. Is this even,
Well, how do we do it then?
Well, he said
in
to
Act
pause.
3 to
just
pause.
enact section 3 to pause it?
Just pause the schedule
Drew, what do
increase.
you think?
Yeah, I think it would just be to pause that section.
That's all? Okay. Well, I motion that we pause the schedule increase for the utility rates for the fiscal year 2023-2024.
And I'll second.
I have a motion from Mr. Brooks and a second from Mr. Dowling to pause the CPI increase in utility rates for fiscal year 2023-2024 in accordance with Section 3 of Resolution 2017-009. Please call the vote.
Brooks,
Yes.
Dowling,
Yes.
Swallow,
No.
Parsons,
Yes.
Bowman,
No.
Laura,
No.
Winters,
No.
and Bear.
No.
I'd like to say if we could have been presented with specific line items that we could have cut or additional changes, then I would have been willing to consider that, but with no information presented, then I didn't have any other choice.
Item 10 is the budget hearing. All interested citizens of the city of Alva as proposed for fiscal year 2023-2024. So basically, we sent out the budget summary. It's been published. And if there are any citizens that would care to give feedback to the city council regarding the budget, the floor is yours.
My name is Justin Scribner. I've got a couple of questions on the budget. I've seen a line item in here for $146,000 for professional services. What is that for?
Professional services as a whole are those services that we have to contract with people to provide us. Some of it's accounting, some of it's audit, some of it's information technology, and so all of those go inside of the category of professional services.
And what about the dues and subscriptions for like $28,000?
Those, depending on, did you write down the account number by chance?
No, I did not.
Okay.
It was in the first part of it. I only got to look at the first 2 pages or a few pages. It was,
All right.
it's in line item 10-501-310.
So this is in the utility office.
Right.
It's going to probably be our Encode system, which is the system that does our billing.
Okay.
And all of our accounting software is in that system.
Okay. That's 2 questions. Now I have another question. Just thought, and I wish I'd have talked before this. Is there a way to look at the cost of equipment, the operating cost of, like, let's say, and I'm going to use the police department because I actually figured them out. Police department runs $162.22 per hour for year long. Without cutting payroll or other services in there, is there a way to reduce it just by $1, $8,760 a year, just by reducing $1 of operating cost per that? Now, I'm sure nobody in here knows the operating cost of the trucks, what it costs to run a truck to Mino every trip. You know,
I think we can figure all that.
and then work.
I can't tell you right now.
No, I can tell you based off of my experience and my equipment, for me to run Mino right now, it costs me $207 a trip. That's round trip. Just give you an idea. Now, is there a way we can look at and say, hey, how can we reduce these expenses? Like fuel, I don't know how fuel's purchased for the city of Alva, I'm assuming on wholesale.
By bulk, yeah.
By bulk, yeah. In the trucking industry, we do a deal called Cost Plus. I don't know if you're familiar with that. But that's like fuel costs $2.50 wholesale, Cost Plus 10 actually costs us $2.75 to buy it. Versus bulk. I mean, sometimes you can get a good deal doing that on a renegotiation of contracts. You know, I don't know if you guys could have a possibility to look into that. And that could offset some of the 6% increase in future years. And maybe even enough of it could bring the cost back down. We could start lowering the cost of utilities. They could attract people to say, hey, look, Alva's getting things done.
I think we're all open to whatever we can do to, reduce our expenses and make our dollar go further.
And I've talked to Joe, we were supposed to get sit down, but I had to work yesterday and spent longer laying out in the mud fixing the truck than I did working.
This budget sends $200,000 less
Yeah.
to the,
And the budget's great, but if we could work, even though you got a budget, if you could figure out how to work expenses after the budget's even put in places today that actually cut, you come in lower than budget next year, I think everybody agree that's a good deal.
I'd say we do that.
And, you and I've had to talk about, like when I hauled the water line for you, I don't know how much I saved the money, the city on that, what, $2,600? Yeah. So it's working with, people, working, I know the water line, I run by a plant every day that manufactures water lines, or twice a week. So, if you were to buy out in Ulysses, Kansas, their water line would work, you could save a lot of money by going directly to the vendor.
that's where
Yeah.
we can't necessarily, because we do have to bid everything out.
Right. And I don't know how that process works, but like I said, I am willing to work with anybody here to help figure out, what your cost of operating is per vehicle, and see if we can figure out how to get it lower. And maybe save the citizens some money, save the city some money.
That's what we want. We approved last year's budget and we saved money over what we had budgeted for last year.
I do have.
So I think we gotta keep doing that.
Yes. I do have one other question. I noticed the police department jumped up about almost double from what it was in 2001 on their insurance. Is there like the health insurance, was there a major increase or?
Yes, there was.
Okay. Is it possible to send that out for bid to see if there's other people who can get it cheaper?
We did send it out.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Any other feedback for the budget hearing? Thank you all. The next item is item 11, discussion with City Council concerning the fiscal year 23-24 budget. So where we're at in the process right now, the public hearing is one of our statutory requirements that we give the citizens an opportunity to talk about the budget with us. We next have to get the rest of I guess we have to get it in the format that's required by state, and then include a management letter with it, and then the resolutions that have to be approved for each of the City Council, Utility Authority, and Economic Development Authorities. We have the resolutions prepared, and those are ready. The actual budget report that goes through the information regarding what are the significant changes this year versus last year. We're in the process of preparing that, but largely we discussed all of those at the budget retreat. And there's not a lot has changed since the budget retreat in terms of those expectations. We'll probably look to have a special meeting to approve the budget, looking at that first week of June. And so Steve will be getting with you to find out your availability, probably the 6th, 7th, or 8th. I guess maybe that's the second week of June, but the 6th, 7th, or 8th. And then where I had said we might change our regular meeting, I think we'll leave our regular meeting the same, just have a special meeting to approve the budget, and then I'll ask Mr. Winters to run the meeting in June, the regular meeting in June. But then we would, have the budget ready for approval on the first whole week of June. What do we need to discuss further? What questions do you have? What suggestions? What questions?
I was curious, the holiday lighting, Was that listed in the budget?
It's not specifically listed. If there's room, it can be done. If there's not room, it can't.
I was just curious.
I guess then what line item would come out of? Or department administrative, I assume?
It can come out of administration.
What line item?
It's not in the budget.
Well, I just didn't know we're probably not going to add a new line item, so I guess when we come back, we would adjust that specific line item. What line item would it come out of when we have to adjust it or take from it if we do?
Probably come out of the contingency line item. It's not specifically in the budget. It only happens if we have excess money. If we move more fund balance over than we thought we would, if we, things like that. That's the way we approve the holiday ordinances. It wouldn't be specifically budgeted. It would only be utilized if we had extra money in the budget.
I mean, not to question on that, if, excess money, that's a term of that, with the condition of roads and our, when do we have excess money? What determines, because I think it'll be a very long time before the city, looking at all the things that need to be accomplished, has excess money. I mean, there might be $10,000 sitting there, but is there a better use for that money than putting Christmas lights up? I love Christmas. I love to see Christmas lights go up. I've volunteered to do it several times, and so I don't, or help with it several times. That's just, I don't know, extra, when the city has extra, I don't think that's, because if you ask a lot of citizens, when our roads are in the condition they are and our water systems in the condition it is, talking $80 million, at no time for the foreseeable future will we have excess money, in my opinion. I don't think, so.
There's truth to that, but I think that's very contingent upon who you ask too, and where they gauge the importance of those, because we did have a lot of people, when we passed that resolution, a lot of people upset that we didn't do Christmas lights before. And they would have rather seen us spend the money doing that than not. So, it is, or has the potential for economic, as being an economic driver, especially if done well. And was in several communities across the state last year, done well. Sepulpa made national news for what they did with their Christmas lights. Of course, that was a big thing, but,
And if someone comes to me with a plan that says this is what we're going to do and it's going to bring this many people to town, I would 100% be behind it, but just the idea of we're going to do this, we're going to put some, lights up that, do look nice, but last year's Christmas lights, the people who are in town looking, anyway, visiting family, I think it was great. I think they look good. I think they're.
Some people liked them, some people didn't.
I don't think they brought anyone to town.
Some people liked them, some people didn't. It's arguable whether it's quality of life or not. And the council, when they passed the ordinance, believed that holiday events and festivities were good for quality of life and the economy of our city. We're not here to debate that ordinance. That ordinance is in effect. The business manager has the authority to spend the money if he's got it in his budget to do so. And meaning he hasn't gone over in other areas and he has stayed under in other areas. That ordinance is passed. That's not what we're debating tonight. What questions do we have about this next fiscal year's budget? We'll have it ready for you by the full week of June. All right, number 12, discussion and action to authorize the city business manager to sign the contract to allow the city of Alva to participate in the low-income household water assistance program. Steve, I'm going to let you take it here. You know more about this one than I do.
Okay, yeah, it's pretty cut and dry. We have to be in contract with the state to be able to offer the service to the citizens, is what it is. And then once we have it in place to offer service to the citizens, they go online and register. It pops into our N-code, and we automatically don't charge them X number of dollars on their water bill based off what they qualify for, based off their household income, the number of people in their house, that kind of thing. So it's typically, like it says, it's low-income household water assistance program. I mean, just the title itself is kind of self-explanatory. It can do nothing but help people.
And it's confidential.
It is. It is.
I'll make a motion to allow the city business manager to sign a contract to allow the city of Alva to participate in low-income housing water assistance program.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Bowman, a second by Mrs. Beer, to authorize the city business manager to sign a contract to allow the city of Alva to participate in the low-income household water assistance program. Is there any further discussion?
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask a point of clarification. Reading through it, it says the components are, I was under the impression that it just offered one-time use on one bill that you were behind on, or in an emergency not being able to.
No, so what they do is if you qualify for it, that goes up to the federal government. They say, okay, person X qualifies for $300 a year. They send us $300 to the city. And then we just deduct that off their bill. So they don't have to pay, whatever that 300 is divided by 12,
Okay.
that's what they don't pay every month.
But they have to show the immediate need of not being able to pay it at that
Yes.
moment.
Yeah.
which
Well, but
will
they
be-
have to register online and show what their median income is, or the household income is, the number of people in the house. That all those factors determine how much they qualify for.
And we don't make that determination.
That's the federal government that does that.
Okay, I'm just curious about the verbiage that says households that have a verifiable water crisis. This can't.
Well, that's for the emergency water crisis.
Okay.
There's two things.
There's two things in there. So they can also qualify for emergency water crisis. And then there's the monthly household reduced water bill.
So do they have to, if they're getting close to being cut off, they get a cutoff notice, will the city hold off until they're able to, get that in, or how's that gonna work?
I think they have to go online and register for it and ask for assistance, and there will be notification that they're eligible for X number of dollars to prevent them from getting water shut off.
This does not change our existing policies.
No. But like, so we get a lot more notifications about stuff like that than we normally would.
Will there be resources at the city office for people asking about this information, help pointing them in the right direction?
Yeah, once we get the contract and everything, we get all the stuff we need, we can at least point them to the right websites and all kind of stuff to go sign up, so, yeah.
A lot of times,
Yeah, no,
a
absolutely.
lot of programs, how do I do it?
And then we'll probably put something in the paper, or something just to advertise it, to at least have the URL to sign up for this program.
You know what, the library helps with a lot of
Yeah,
information like
yeah,
that.
so. And we have plenty of ways to get people signed up.
Any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Bowman,
Yes.
Bear,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Dowling,
Yes.
Parsons,
Yes.
Swallow,
Yes.
Winters,
Yes.
Brooks.
Yes.
All right, item 13 is discussion and action to enter into executive session pursuant to 25 OS 307B1 to discuss fiscal year 2023-24 City of Alva and IAFF Local 3782 firefighters union contract. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Have a motion by Mrs. Beer and a second by Mr. Winters to enter into executive session to discuss firefighter contract, union contract. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Bear,
Yes.
Winters,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Swallow,
Yes.
Parsons,
Yes.
Dowling,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Brooks.
Yes.
All right, I'll ask council members to stay, legal counsel, business manager, and the clerk. And Chief, come on in. Back to regular session, and we're on to number 15, new business. We don't have anything that meets the requirements for new business, so we will move on to item 16, remarks and inquiries by council members.
I did have a couple things. First of all, was there was a manhole issue. I sent it to the mayor. It was taken care of within a day, so I appreciate that. Just kind of to citizens, if you have a problem, make sure if it's not taken care of, sometimes things can happen, things can get lost depending on where you're calling it. So reach out to a council member, reach out to the mayor, come down to City Hall. That's just kind of something I'd like to say, because when stuff happens, if it's taking longer than you'd like to see, don't mind reaching out again. The other thing is, I did have someone contact me and ask about how our vehicles' fuel was logged, how the city vehicles, with fuel being in the budget is a high cost, if we do any sort of logging, mile logging for different trips. I didn't know if that's something we do or could be looked into.
We used to carry a logbook, didn't we? All our fuel went into it, the ambulance.
I'm sure they still do.
So,
Yeah, they log when you fill up, basically number of gallons. We don't log trips.
trips.
I mean, if I'd have Drake log every time he goes to the well field, he'd have a binder this thick.
This is just a concern that a citizen
Yeah.
had talked to me. Another thing, I've had people ask about making complaints. Is there, and I don't know are those complaint forms that are submitted, are those confidential?
No.
They are not. Okay, so is that something that city council members can see? Because I want to know, personally what's going on, what people are upset about, if they're making complaints at City Hall and not coming to the council member, just so that might be something I'd like to for all of us to be able to see, just to keep us aware. I don't know. So,
Well, you make a 3-ring binder of that.
so
Basically, all complaints have to be signed, because if we have to move forward with legal action, then we have to have those signed complaints to carry on like tall weeds or dilapidated properties or something.
just anything. I just if that is possible, I think it could be beneficial. So
Yeah, I'll get 5 items, start putting them
All
in
right,
a 3-ring binder.
I had somebody in the public ask about our social media policy as far as department heads discussing department issues with people on Facebook. Is there a policy in regards to that? Does there not need to be?
There's a social media policy, but there's nothing that prohibits them from discussing, except unless it's something that would be protected, by, unless it was protected information by state law.
Yeah.
They can have political opinions. They can't do anything.
City issues,
They can't be derogatory to their employer, sorry. Or about other employees it's kind of how the policy's written.
But nothing on like speaking on behalf of the city on social media.
Well, no, none of. I'm the only one that can speak on. Me and Steve are the only ones that can speak on behalf of the city.
That's our dedicated.
They can speak on behalf of their department then.
Yeah, so like, we have department accounts, like the fire department, police department, EMS, have our own city Facebook accounts. One, that's a great way for us to get out if something's going on, and fundraisers or different events that we're doing. But as for...
I think this was just in reply to somebody's post on their own Facebook page.
Their own personal page.
Yeah, and then, so they were getting kind of a hot discussion, I think. I don't know.
Our policies can't supersede free speech.
But it was on, it was just, I think as a city, department head or whatever, so that's why they were asking. I was wondering, I've never seen a city employee handbook. Do we have a handbook for city employees?
We do.
And for council members too?
And it needs updated. That'll be on his list.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you guys look at the I know with Steve just coming on, but we try to review our handbook. Most places do yearly and to tweak things. Do we
In fact,
as a
OMAC
city
will
do
give
that?
us money if we do that.
I think it's been 2 years since we reviewed it last.
2 or 3, yeah.
And he's the council person's handbook. I didn't know if that's something, knowing how to bring an item up, knowing, just kind of, I know there's training, but from talking to other council members, I said even the training doesn't cover everything. That might be something that's looked into in the
I
future.
got one when
There is a council.
New official training. That's
yeah,
what.
Well,
you should get
there
one in
should
the
be a
mail.
handbook that we have.
Yeah, I got a 3-1 binder from Alva, which have they reached out to you?
You
It
should
took, I
get
think, a
one.
little bit.
Okay, yeah, so that just to be.
All right.
I think I got one about a month
Okay.
and a half after.
Anything else? All right. City council is adjourned. And we will open the regular meeting of the Alva Utility Authority. Please call the roll.
Winters,
Here.
Lark. Here. Dowling.
Here.
Swallow.
Here.
Bear.
Here.
Brooks.
Here.
Parsons. Bowman.
Here. Item 3 is discussion and action on the consent agenda. All of the following items which concern reports and items of a routine nature normally approved at AUA meetings will be approved by the authority. Any trustee desiring to discuss an item on the consent agenda may request that it be removed from the consent agenda and placed for discussion as the next item on the regular agenda. It will then be considered separately. The consent agenda consists of the consideration and action on the following items. Item A, approval of the minutes of the special meeting of May 4th, 2023. Item B, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting April 17th, 2023. Item C, approval of claims in the amount of $139,311.36 and payroll expenses of $50,320.35.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Winters, a second from Mrs. Beer to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Winters,
Yes.
Bear,
Yes.
Dowling,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Parsons,
Yes.
Swallow,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Lahr.
Yes.
All right. Item 5 is new business. There is no new business. Item 6 is to adjourn. All right. Let's call to order the regular Alva Economic Development Authority meeting. Please call the roll.
Winters,
Here.
Lahr,
Here.
Dowling,
Here.
Swallow,
Here.
Bear,
Here.
Brooks,
Here.
Parsons,
Here.
Bowman.
Here.
Item 3 is discussion and action on the consent agenda. All of the following items which concern reports and items of a routine nature normally approved at AEDA meetings will be approved by one vote of the authority. Any trustee desiring to discuss an item on the consent agenda may request that it be removed from the consent agenda and placed for discussion as the next item on the regular agenda. It will then be considered separately. The consent agenda consists of the consideration and action on the following items. Approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of April 17th, 2023. An approval of claims in the amount of $34,059.91 and payroll expenses of $16,029.44.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Have a motion from Mr. Winters, a second by Mrs. Beer to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Winters,
Yes.
Bear,
Yes.
Swallow,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Dowling,
Yes.
Parsons,
Yes.
Lahr,
Yes.
Brooks.
Yes.
Item 5 is discussion and action to approve the NWOSU 2023 spring semester Alva incentive scholarship expenditure in the amount of $272,872. We heard the presentation earlier. Is there any need to discuss this? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I motion to approve the NWOSU 2023 spring semester Alva incentive scholarship expenditure in the amount of $272,872.
Second.
Have a motion from Mr. Winters, a second from Mr. Parsons to approve the 2023 spring semester Alva incentive scholarship for Northwestern in the amount of $272,872. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Winters,
Yes.
Parsons,
Yes.
Bear,
Yes.
Lahr,
Yes.
Dowling,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Brooks,
No.
Swallow.
Yes.
All right. Item 6 is new business. There is no new business. We are adjourned.
Welcome.